Okie dokie. So this is our Tuesday night video. How's it going, everybody? We've got Jarret Gahan here with us. He joined us on this week's podcast, and he's going to be here with us for these two videos for the week. And we were umming and ahhing about what we should talk about in this first video. So we've decided to continue our conversation about Gene Hackman movies. So off you go, Jarret.
I mean, the guy's made so many movies that you could pretty much... Why has no one done a Gene Hackman podcast? I mean, possibly because you would have to cover multiple movies per episode, because otherwise that would be the longest running podcast out there. I mean, the guy's got such a ridiculous catalog.
I'm willing if you are, Jarret.
Well, yeah. You know what actually I did think of recently was, how's this? Rob Lowe's got a podcast. Of course I'm listening to it, only when he gets good guests like, Debbie Moore or someone that he's worked with in, a capacity film or television-wise. But I was thinking, man, a Rob Lowe podcast about Rob Lowe films, because Rob Lowe did a lot of amazing films in the 80s, like Oxford Blues, St. Elmo's Fire, so many classics. Young Blood, yes. So many classics. But then, in the 90s was fine, even though the post-sex scandal thing, whatever. But then the 2000s weren't very kind to him until he picked up, like, The West Wing and... later, when he picked up Parks and Recreation, and even that time between West Wing and Parks and Recreation, he's done a lot of DTV movies, and I started falling down into Rob Lowe's hole, his rabbit hole. I didn't do it on film, so there's no chance of that leaking. But and he has done some...
The hole?
The hole?
The hole, no. Nothing seeping out of that, I can tell you. It's... Well plugged.
I just hope that people watching this have actually listened to our Monday podcast.
Yeah,
there's a whole lot of context.
What's he talking about, Rob Hole? And anyway, I just thought it would be amazing to have a podcast where you went and you did every single Rob Lowe film, because Rob Lowe has made a lot of movies. And I thought that maybe you could call the podcast All Time Low.
That would be amazing.
And only focus on the shit films.
Yes, but I think in true Jarret spirit, you'd have a Rob Lowe podcast and not talk about Rob Lowe.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk about everyone else. We're going to talk about everyone he acted opposite and everything they've ever done. Rob Lowe, no.
So Ben, no. Ben, let me start again. What Gene Hackman movies would you like to talk about?
Well, there's a couple of Gene Hackman films that I really like, and I think they kind of work well. Have any of them got
Rob Lowe in them? Any of them got
close? I'm sorry. One of them has Rush's answer to Rob Lowe, which is a film from 1991 called Company Business, with Mikhail Baryshnikov is who I am referring to. He's actually made. I think there's. I feel like there's three kind of really good kind of spy CIA type movies that he made, and Company Business is one. The Package with Tommy Lee Jones is another one, and then Target with
of course, yeah,
with Matt Dillon. Kind of all in that kind of wheelhouse where he's either out of the game and being pulled back in, or he's like at the end of his career. Which is the case of Company Business. He's like too old school and they don't really think he's up to muster. And that's why they send him on this, basically a prisoner exchange, a real low rent prisoner exchange with the Russians. They're trading double agents or something like that. And then of course things go wrong and he ends up on the run with Mikhail Baryshnikov in Company Business. And in The Package, it has this amazing sequence. He's sent to pick up, a prisoner. He's like a military policeman kind of thing, and he's sent to pick up what's his name, Tommy Lee Jones from I think the train station, I think he is, and to take him to prison to face, or to take him to... No, he picks him up. That's right. He picks him up in like Germany or something. He crosses the bridge in the border in between the Russian side and the American side.
It's like a scene from Bridge of Spies. Like they
100%.
I think they don't.
Yeah, that's right. I reckon Bridge of Spies totally ripped it off from that film, which I think, and Gotcha did the same thing. And then on the way back, they're in like a train terminal or something like that, and he goes to the toilet and he's combing what little hair he has or something, and he gets knocked on the back of the head, and Tommy Lee Jones absconds, and he spends the rest of the movie tracking him down. which is fantastic. And Targets is he's just like a dad in it, and his wife goes on a business trip overseas and then goes missing
to Paris.
In Paris.
Yeah, does she win a trip to Paris? No, she goes on a business trip, doesn't she?
I think she goes on a business trip, and I mean, they're not having problems. I think there's some weird family dynamic because he doesn't get along with his son, played by Matt Dillon.
Yes.
And then they find out that she's disappeared, and no one's doing anything to find him. So he goes over there, and that's when his son finds out that he used to be a company man. He was a member of the CIA, and he's in a very kind of Taken kind of fashion. He's kind of rounding up all his old contacts and stuff and trying to track down who's kidnapped his wife. It's also a bit like that Harrison Ford movie, Frantic, where his wife goes missing and he tracks her down. He just doesn't have. He's not saddled with a son. He just has a sexy. Is she working with them or is she not? Kind of sidekick.
And it's got a comic tone to it too. It's a little bit funny as well because Matt Dillon sees his dad as a really uncool kind of figure from every way he dresses, the things he likes. And so he's always having a go at him until obviously discovers that he's like this international spy, and he's like, oh, okay, whoa.
Yeah. Well, speaking of like serious movies he did that have kind of a comic edge to it, what about Uncommon Valor? That got released on Blu-ray this year, I think, and I watched that for the first time in years, and I was taken by surprise about how much or how comical it kind of was. It's
pretty
really
over the top, huh?
Well, it's really it's fanciful.
Like the fighting / dancing sequences, in the sunset.
Power ballad
Patrick
in there.
Swayze's, talk dirty, fight me in the mud sort of stuff. It's a funny film. It's just crazy. It's like Dad's Army or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the minute you let Randall text Cobb deliver dialogue instead of just grunt, then you're in for a good time.
True.
It's been a movie that I've avoided for years because of the shitty DVD art that we used to have.
Yes.
And that did not represent the movie whatsoever. But the art that they've released on the Blu-ray, which is the theatrical art, it sold me. So that's the reason I bought it. Yeah. But look, it's a fun movie. Was that Ted Kotcheff?
It's a very good question.
Sure.
I'm pretty
I know
sure
Tim Thomerson was in it.
No, I'm 100% certain you're correct there. I think it is, yeah.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it's Ted Kotcheff. Which is funny, too, because you've kind of got that aspect of him doing this, 3 years after First Blood or something? And you've kind of got this whole veteran sort of aspect as well, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But this one, obviously, with the comic nature of it as opposed to the gritty and awfulness of the first one.
So I kind of I took it away from you earlier on when you started talking about Rob Lowe, but what did you want to come in with?
Look,
what did you want to come in with?
I wanted to talk about a little film called Bad Influence with James Spader and Rob Lowe. No, sorry, that's got no Gene Hackman. No, The Quick and the Dead.
I was about to say, I don't think Gene Hackman's in that one.
Well, he did the stunt cock in it, but Quick and the Dead from 1995, directed by Sam Raimi. It's Sam Raimi doing a western. It's an all-star cast before a lot of the cast were A-listers. So you've got Leonardo DiCaprio, who at that time really had only come off the back of What's Eating Gilbert Grape. It was before the Basketball Diaries as well. So before he was appreciated as like a serious sort of maturing actor. Sharon Stone, of course, had been big at the time from Basic Instinct, but Gene Hackman's the villain in a role that's awfully similar to his role in Unforgiven as well. And it's a great western, super stylized in that Sam Raimi fashion, full of really fast-paced juxtapositions and montages of cool shit. It's really cool to look at, and it's one of those films I saw on video when it came out, purely because it was Sam Raimi and I had to see it. And I was a little bit like, because I've never been a big western fan. And then I revisited it when it came out on 4K, maybe last year or the year before, and fell in love with it. It's just
good.
Such a tight, fast-paced, awesome
Don't forget
film.
Russell
Did I
Crowe.
mention Russell Crowe? Yes.
Yeah.
And it was Russell Crowe before he was really big in the US. At that point in time, he had done, I think it was actually about maybe a year before LA Confidential.
Well, Virtuosity, I think he did.
Virtuosity was his one, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And
was that
friend
the
of the show, Mick
question
Garris,
the other week? Was Virtuosity the mystery trailer a couple of weeks back?
No, but I referenced it somewhere recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I hear them and I never find out what they are. So I kind of just got to guess. Like Sneakers was one the other week for sure, yeah?
That was last week's, yes.
Yeah, it was last week.
Awesome. Yeah, every time I hear them, I was like, oh, is that Sneakers? I'll message Glenn and find out. Because you never find out. And I'm like, oh,
No.
man. And then I forget what they are.
I'm just looking at the cast of Quick and the Dead, and it is phenomenal, like all-star cast. Tobin Bell, Robert Blossom, Kevin Conway, Keith David, Lance Henriksen, Pat Hingle, Gary Sinise, Mark Boone Jr., Woody Strode pops up, Scott Spiegel, Sven Thoresen, which I think we talked about last week. I did say before, I don't know if you guys heard me, but friend of the show, Mick Garris, pops up as one of the kind of sidekick kind of background players.
And to top it all off, I'm sure in the credits there is a fake chimp.
Oh, of course. And Bruce Campbell is in it as well. I was meant to say Bruce Campbell as well.
Yeah.
It is just like such a good, entertaining, and absolutely fits that revenge type of movie where you're like, oh yeah, I want that revenge.
I put it in the same bucket as Young Guns. It's that popcorn kind of Western.
Yeah, absolutely. Stylized and fun and, big sort of popcorn type of movie. But yeah, Quick and the Dead 95, if you've never seen it, you need to check it out. And if you're like me and you're a bit, about Westerns.
Well, didn't he within the frame of 4 years, he had made Unforgiven. I think he made Geronimo and White Earp as well.
He did. I just revisited Geronimo not long ago, actually. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he had done all these sort of period set Western type pieces or American frontier films. Yeah, it was like, it was on a cycle. Well, that's they were making them. So.
But that's what he does now. Like, he actually writes Western novels.
Yeah, does a lot of fishing. Fishing as well, yeah.
Hang on, did you say fishing?
Fishing.
Yes. Cyber fishing.
Yeah. I was going to say fishing. White Earp is one that I need to revisit because that's like the hat trick movie for me. It's Kevin Costner, it's Dennis Quaid, and Gene Hackman. 3 of my favorites in a film, and I have not watched it since video.
And
the Blu-ray.
And what do you think of Lawrence Kasdan? Did he direct that?
I don't know who directed it. I think no, you're right. Yes, absolutely. I'm looking at the back of the slick in my head now, and I can see it. Yeah, I've the jury's out until I rewatch this movie, but I intend to watch White Earp again. Yeah, I think the thing that put me off is a quite long movie.
It was White Earp and Tombstone that kind of went head to head.
Yes, and Tombstone was more the popcorn version. It was, it had the classy tagline, "Justice is coming." It had the all-star cast of, people that had been popular or were up and coming, and it was more appealing. Plus, I think it was about
Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer and Jan Michael Vincent.
Well, I think Val Kilmer stole the show. I think that's what sold it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was all clammy. That's speaking of sweaty faces in movies.
Not a saxophone in sight.
No. He was dying of the old tuberculosis, and he was all sweated up.
Are there any more that you guys can think of before we wrap it up?
I really like a film called Twilight, which he did much later in his career, which is a fantastic.
Would you say
in
his
story.
Twilight?
In his Twilight,
yeah.
And there is a scene.
Hang on, contextualize that for people. We're not talking about the vampire film.
Yes, true. This is the film that came before that one. He plays a very old Edward Cullen.
Yeah, that's
ancient.
Right.
It's like
ancient, Vampire Diaries.
Physically. Yeah.
Like an interview with the vampire.
Yeah.
Like in this one, he's actually playing an aging movie star. And Paul Newman is his handyman / fixer who lives with him, and he's married to Susan Sarandon, who Paul Newman is secretly in love with. And he's got James Garner pops up in this. I think Juan Carlo Esposito pops up. Stockard Channing, Reese Witherspoon plays his wayward daughter. Liev Schreiber pops up in it as her ne'er-do-well boyfriend. Reese Witherspoon's boobs pop up in this film. It was very popular for that reason. But there is a great scene in it where Gene Hackman is watching one of his old films in the movie when Paul Newman kind of walks in on him, and it's Downhill Racer, which is a really odd skiing movie that he did with Robert Redford back in the day, which I caught as a midday movie on TV. And I remember thinking, this has to be the most boring Robert Redford Gene Hackman movie. I didn't know it was possible to be this boring, so I only really watched 20 minutes of it. It could have been phenomenal after that 20 minutes. I don't know. Have you seen the rest of it, Jarret?
I bought the Blu-ray of it, and I was telling you, Ben, I was like, I bought the Blu-ray of this Gene Hackman film with Robert Redford called Downhill Racer. Never heard of it, and you go, oh, I've seen a bit of that. It wasn't great. And so it slowly moved further down the pile along with the last 30 minutes of Loose Cannon.
Ben has that effect.
It could be a fantastic sports movie like Hoosiers.
Yeah.
But they both came across as unlikable. They've taken The Natural with Redford and Hoosiers with Gene Hackman, put them both together, and came up with
Copper Mountain.
Yeah.
Oh well, before we wrap this up, we can't go this far into it without mentioning Young Frankenstein.
Oh, of course, yes. It's a good because there's so few comic turns for Gene Hackman throughout his career, except for that Bob Clark one I mentioned before, Loose Cannon's awful movie opposite Dan Aykroyd. But yeah, Young Einstein is absolutely in its
Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein. Young Einstein's also an exception to the rule. Does not star Gene Hackman or Rob Lowe.
No.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
But if you take
Are you
Gene
sure
Hackman,
Yahoo Serious wasn't Gene Hackman?
Yes, if you take Rob Lowe and Gene Hackman, put them together, you get Yahoo Serious.
He's serious.
Yeah.
Because Yahoo Serious has disappeared. He could be. He's like the Masked Singer. He could be anyone.
Could be writing westerns whilst fishing out in the middle of nowhere.
In fact, I think Gene Hackman is coming out of retirement and signed on to do Mr. Accident 2.
Oh my God!
Oh
yes.
wow!
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be exciting.
He will
Well,
play.
you should try.
He will play
him on the show.
A physical release in Australia as well, because that's generally how these Yahoo Serious things go.
And it's all going to be filmed on the Kokoda Trail.
Well, we've been hearing about that. Makes sense.
Yep. All right, guys. That was stupid. I'll see you on Thursday night.
See you guys.
Or in 30 seconds.
That's true.
Should I go and change my top?
No.
It looks like we're different. Different. No, people who know me know that I wear the same clothes every day. Like it's literally.